Hey, before we get started on today's episode, we have a quick disclaimer for you. Constable Bean is a little rowdy, and there might be a bit of cursing involved throughout our episodes. We are all about sharing authentic well being journeys, even if they're not always pretty, because, it'd be like that sometimes. So we want you to feel super comfortable and respected while you're tuning into our podcast. So if you're easily offended by colorful language. That was a great way of putting it. Great job, Jade. This podcast might not be for you, and that is okay. But we wish you well always. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Constable Being the podcast where the intention is well. My name is Jade.
And I'm Aileen.
And we're your hosts for today's episode. If you're new, hi. If you're not new, welcome back. So, as always, we're going to kick it off with a moment. I don't know what Aileen's moment is. So, do you have a grateful moment, a well being moment, a fail moment? What's your moment? What's your moment, girl?
Mine's a fail moment.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Wait,
Okay.
what moment are you doing?
I'm going to do a grateful moment.
Okay. We've switched. I always do grateful and you do fail. So
yeah. Yes.
It's been that week, okay?
Go for it.
I would say my fail moment, which I think is going to lead perfectly into this episode, is I let my emotions get to me this week. Like, I was just not having it. And I clearly was drained and upset by it instead of just letting it go and moving on. So my fail moment was I did not center myself and rethink about it and was like, it's fine, just let it go. I let it fester and I got angry. So that's my fail moment.
Your fail moment. Well, ain't nothing wrong with it, but at least you normally, you know what I'm saying? At least you have a normal, okay, you know what, I'll chill. And you just lost it one time and it's okay. It's okay.
It happens.
You'll lose it. Yeah, it's okay. But proud of you for failing. That's important. That's how we
learning
grow.
from it.
Exactly, period. That's the point of it. So I think you'll be okay. And you know what? People deserve it sometimes. So it'd be like that sometimes. So it is what it is. My moment is a grateful moment. Aileen, I was telling Aileen before we started recording that I had a very chaotic Sunday. And I am grateful that I'm healthy and in one piece because people are just really reckless drivers and you just really have to be careful because you just never know how people are going to swerve. And so I'm grateful that I'm good. It could have been a really different story. So yeah, I'm grateful that I'm okay. So that's my moment. All right. So, with that being said, are we ready to get into the main topic for today's episode? I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie. I am. I don't know, something about a Jade and Aileen, it feels like a roast session. You know what I'm saying? We're just about to sit around and just be like, yeah. These people could be better, but who am I to sit here and talk about it as we sit here and talk about it? I feel like it's gonna be one of those moments.
Okay. Why don't you introduce the topic then?
Okay, so our topic for today's episode is the concept of being underestimated at work. And I'm excited. First, let's just backtrack really fast. Let me just clarify a couple of things because I know when we started, we're technically in our mental health era. We have decided to just go with the flow with the episodes, and so they'll no longer be different series. We're just gonna go within the different well-being topics. So we're gonna talk about work today, and I think it's gonna be interesting.
So if you don't know, Jade and I legitimately have the same experience when we first started. So we both graduated from the same school the same year. Turns out we were both going, and if you don't know, this is how I met Jade is through school. We met, I think it was it was like the last week of before graduating with our bachelor degrees. So Jade was presenting, and we both, the funny thing is, we both had the same internship, but we didn't know each other because we were on different days. But we had a friend that, like, she would do the internship with Jade one day and then she'd do the internship with me another day. But we were never, like, Jade and I were never scheduled at the same time. So we didn't know each other. So during our final presentations, Jade was like, oh, so after I graduate, I'm going to start this internship, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no way. I'm going to that internship too. And mind you, the internship we were doing was unpaid for the school. And then we were going to like a paid internship. So, but Jade and I, like, anyway, we're thick as thieves at the next place. So I was like, thank God I have a friend. And mind you, I knew this, me and this girl were going to be friends because we showed up this first day in the same freaking outfit, just a different colored, but same outfit, like same shirt, was striped. And I was just
Mine was
like,
blue. Was your pink? Yours was pink, I think?
mine was pink
Red?
and blue, and yours was
Okay.
like white and blue. And it was like a
Yeah,
striped
yeah.
shirt. And then we both wore like navy, like dress pants or something crazy. Um, but that I was like, okay, me and this girl, we're gonna be friends, right? And so we legitimately had a similar upbringing. We went to the same college. We both had the same two internships, and then Jade, I ended up staying on with that company, and then Jade continued and expanded her career more and went to a different company. But the funny thing is, even though we've had the same start, I think we've had very different experiences in the workplace. But as we were talking, this is something that I think Jade and I both experienced. And I was just like venting about my week. And I was like, I can't believe, even though I've been in the workforce for like, what, almost 10 years now.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, almost there, not quite. But people are still questioning if I know what I'm doing. And I
And
was like,
Aileen knows what she's doing. Like, listen, if I needed Aileen to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would trust you. I'd be like, yeah, let's ask Aileen. She'll know. So I think this is wild.
and so anyway, I'll backtrack. So this week, one of the teams that I work with was like, hey, can you come and do this safety walk with us? We want to do it on a quarterly basis. I'm like, sure, not a problem. I'll be there, whatever time. So we're just walking around, minding my own business, calling out simple things that they needed to correct. And as we're walking, he asks, um, so did you go to school for this? And I'm like, is he really asking me this? Like, and I was like, yeah, I went to school. And he's like, oh, well, where did you go to school? And I told him the university. And I was like, but then I was thrown to the wolves once I started like at a full-time position. It's like, no matter what, if you go to school and you graduate and then you start working, right? It's not like, you learn through experience. And so I was like, what the heck? Like, why are people still asking me this? And so the company that Jade and I first started at, this happened to me there. And then so I was like, I literally like, I can't believe, like, in the beginning I could see it because I'm like, okay, I'm right out of college. And it's always with men for some reason that it always
Hmm.
happens to me. I've never had a woman question me. But when it comes to men, they've always questioned it. So when I first started and I had like all these teams, it was male dominated, right? And so I would go out there and like you could tell like they were questioning what I knew. And I was like, is this for real? Like, and I was like, okay, I'm like 22 years old, 23 years old. They were probably like, this girl's like, and they were like 50. And I was like, oh, you got to change this or do this. Like, I would go into places and they would be like, oh, what are you here to wrap me in bubble wrap? And I was like, maybe I should, it's ridiculous. Like, anyway, so then I thought I was like over that phase because like my last company, no one ever did that to me.
Hmm. That's
And
good.
yeah, and then so then I was surprised that this week I was doing this walk and someone said that to me. And I remember I was like a little offended and I like called my
Yeah.
coworker and I was like, do I come off as dumb? And she's like,
Oh,
no, why? And then I told her what happened and she's like, I can't believe he asked you that. And the thing is like, do you think a company like this would hire me from another company if I knew nothing or if I wasn't qualified?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Or maybe I
No.
just like overreacted, but I'm like, how
No.
long do we as women need to work in a workforce where we do not get questioned anymore? Like,
That that's the question of the year, ain't it? I
but
don't
does
know.
this happen to you?
Yes, it happens to me a lot, actually. It happens to me a lot. And I remember the first time that it happened, I was so offended. And so, like, if you're wrong in being offended, then I'm super wrong. Because every time I'm offended, because I worked really hard to be where I'm at. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have everything that a person would need to be able to do the role that I need. Like, I'm honestly, sometimes I'm overqualified, to be honest with you. And so I take offense to it. And the first time that it happened, it was, I think I was maybe like a year and a half into my like big girl job. So this is like after our internship. Maybe it was like a year into like my big girl job.
Mm-hmm.
And I show up. So for everyone that doesn't know, like I work in the field of ergonomics and wellness now. So um yeah, I show up to do this assessment for this man, and I'm listen, do I want to give the assessment? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows, right? I showed up, I'm here, and I'm standing in this man's office doorway, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Jade. I'm here to do your assessment." He's like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting a child." I said, "Excuse me,
What?
sir."
He said that?
Sir, why would you say that? And he's like, and so I was just like, do you want this assessment? Yes or no? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you say to that? And he's just like, yeah, come in, come in. And then he proceeds to tell me how I should do my job. And then he's like, because you know about this, this, and this. Yeah, I do. I have a master's degree in it. Thank you. I think I know what I'm talking about. And so that was like my first like experience where I was like, this is annoying. And that happened a lot. So in my first like big girl job, like I would say like the average age for people that were working there was like maybe like 50. Like it was like a lot of people that were close to retiring. Like there were so many like retirement parties all the time. And so here I am, a hot young chick, a hot young, like, fresh chicken. Is that what you call it? A spring chicken. Here I
A
am.
fresh spring chicken.
Whatever. And I'm here and everyone's about to like retire, and I'm like, I know that. So with that specific company, like they had to have like someone come visit them every year, and so they had this assessment. I don't know, probably like, I don't know, 30 times or something. I don't know. And so I understand why they thought that, like, why they knew what they were doing. That's fine. But I think that there was still like an element of like, every time they would see me, they'd be like, I've been here longer than you've been alive. It was that energy. And so
Yeah.
that was annoying to me, and I used to get so mad. And I remember I used to have this lady that I would talk to, and she's like, one day, Jade, you're going to be upset that people don't. For me, it was like an age thing. Like they always thought I was like a child, right? Not, and because I was child, they would like guess like, oh, she's obviously um not as educated as we need her to be. Like you're expecting an older person, which I think is what like younger doctors experience and stuff like that, where it's just like, are you even old enough to be doing this? Like I've been alive longer than you've been in, like that type of energy. And so
That's funny that you bring that up though. Is
really,
the whole thing about like age, right?
mm-hmm,
Is I like they've been around in a job position longer than we've been alive that I used to like. they found out it was my birthday once.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, so how old are you turning?" The first thing that came out of my, mind you, I'm like 22, 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like 42.
Period.
And they looked at me and they're like, "No, but like really," I'm like, "I'm serious."
No, literally.
Like, first of all, it's none of your business, but if I'm going to tell you a number, so then the funny thing is I had an intern with me at the time, and so she reaches out to me on my birthday and she's like, "What are you, like 65 now?" Like,
Period.
yes,
Wait,
I
so
am.
do you never tell them how old you are at work?
No, because I think they realize that I'm younger than them and it
Yeah.
discredits what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. I just learned that. That is actually something that I didn't know. And then I realized the way that people were using it against me in my previous roles. So, like, literally, I think I had like 3 jobs where, like, I would tell them how old I was. They'd be like, "How old are you?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm this old." And they're like, "Oh, you're just a little baby. You don't know yet." Da, da, da. And I was like, "You guys are trying to dog walk me." And I feel like they would like take advantage of me because of my age. And so because of that, I no longer tell people how old I am that I work with. It's just like a way of protecting myself because I noticed as soon as I would tell them how old I am, like they started treating me differently and I'm like that's not the vibes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think now that I'm getting older, I realize that that's something I don't have to share with people. I don't have to tell my coworkers a lot of things about me, and especially my age. You're not even supposed to ask. So, especially because I'm a lady, like that is rude to ask. Like I'd be so confused. I'm like, do you have no manners? Did
They're like,
I,
"No."
they're like, no, how old are you? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. And so at this job, I think I'm like, I actually had a conversation with a friend one time because I was telling her about it, and she was telling me that she kind of does the same thing. And she's like, now I just like confusing them. So I think once they start to like try and pinpoint my age, like, oh, maybe she's like a millennial, I'll go and do something Gen Z, right? And then it's like, maybe she's Gen Z, I'll go do something that like, I don't know, like a 6-year old would know. And it's like, it's just keeping them on their toes. And I had a conversation with my therapist about it because I'm like, now that I don't tell people how old I am, it's like they like that's all they ask. And she's like, well, it's at now it's kind of like a game of like, can you figure out how old Jade is? Does that happen for you or do people just leave you alone?
I think for me, I don't mind telling like my peers how old I
Mm-hmm.
am because I don't think they've ever judged the validity of what I'm saying. I think it's the people that I partner with and support, like different teams, different individuals. Those are the people I don't tell. But now I literally tell people I'm 42. And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Seriously, you see this wrinkle?" And they're like, "There's no wrinkle." And I just don't tell them. I just say 42 because then and they're like, "Well, if you're 42, I'm like 70 something." And I'm like, "Well,
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I
congratulations."
guess you're retiring soon then, aren't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I might have to take that and use that for my own because I'm not good at dodging questions. I'm like, what is age really? And like, let's focus on what's important, which is the information that I need to be giving to you. So my question to you is like, when these things happen where like people are trying to like discredit you or like make you feel a little bit smaller in like your role, how do you navigate it? Like what do you say? Like what's your clap back? Like immediately what do you say back to them?
I think it depends on the situation and who it is.
Okay.
So I think depending on the person, so like if it's like a frontline person, like I'll just come back and I'm a little rude sometimes. Like I said, like that frontline man that was like, "Are you here to wrap me in bubble wrap?" I'm like, "Maybe I should. What are you doing in here that I need to wrap you in bubble wrap?" Right? So
Mhm.
I've gotten like those comebacks, but now Like the guy that said it this time, he's a manager for a whole team that I support. And at first, like, I was a little put off by it. And that's where I was like, oh, don't worry. Like, at my first job, they threw me to the wolves and I've learned a lot. Right. And then, like, I think in certain situations, they're like, it's funny though, because different people at different levels will treat you differently. And I think I told you earlier was even though that happened to me, like I was on a call with my team and my team knows my value. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, at least they know it. But something that I totally admire about my coworker is she does not care if you are the freaking CEO of the company, she's coming after you. Like, she is the type of person that, like, for instance, we had someone complain about like a fire drill. He's like, well, you should have let me know. And we're like, it's unannounced. Why would we let you know? But he thinks he like runs a building. I'm like, dude, get over yourself. So I told her, I don't, because I'm new, right? I don't know who these people are. I was like, hey, some guy's complaining. I don't know who he is, whatever. So she found out who he was, and we were down getting coffee. She ran into him. She's like, so I heard you had a problem with the fire drill.
I
and
love that.
and he's like, well, like productivity, you should give me a heads up. Did it? She's like, have you ever heard unannounced? Do you know what that means? Why would I tell you if it's unannounced? I'm testing your ability too. And then on top of it, she's like, and I need your help. I need more of these people to help.
I love that.
I was
She's
like,
a
good for
star.
you. She really is.
I
So
love
I'm
that.
just like, I don't know. These people though can like, and it's funny because the most, for me at least, I don't know for you, it's never like higher up individuals,
Oh
right? Like
no. No. Yeah.
never. It's always like the lower laying management or
Hmm.
frontline people that make those comments.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Always.
Sir, it's sorry, but it's always been a sir for me too. And I wish it wasn't always like that, but it's always been a man that does that to me. And at this point, the last time that it happened to me, it happened to me a couple of months ago, and it honestly hadn't happened to me in a while. Uh and it might have been because like we were virtual, people really needed me during the pandemic. Like I was providing vibes. I was talking to these people for 30 minutes. I was getting their life together real fast. So they had no other choice but to be like, Jade, you are our savior. Like, thank you so much. But as soon as I was able to be in person, it happened. And it always catches me off guard because I'll really just be minding my own business when it does happen. And the last time this happened, I was there to help him. Okay.
What
I was
happened?
I was there to do an evaluation of like an entire work site, right? They
Hmm.
called they were like, bring in Jade because we want ergo eyes on this. So they brought me in, and I'm, mind you, minding my own business, just trying to get into the building. And we're waiting for like our tour guide to come, and this man is here along with like me and another guy, and he's like, so you're the ergo person? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what kind of ergo have you done before? And I'm like, what the fuck, like, sir,
Yeah.
different types, like, why are you all up in my business? You know what I'm saying? The thing is I don't ask people this, because I fully know that if you're doing your job, I trust that you know how to do your job. Just like you should know that if I'm here, just like for you too, like if you're in your role, they didn't hire you for no reason. And I will say there's an added layer to this. I'm a Black woman, okay? And so I am not getting away with not being good at something. Like that's just true. If I'm not good at it, they're not going to hire me to do it, right? So I have to be really 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 good at it. So for him to come at me and be like, "So, what types have you done?" I'm like, all types. He's like, so what is ergonomics? Like, explain it to me. He's testing me.
Are you
And so,
serious?
no, he literally stood there and tested me and is like asking me all these questions. And he's like, and so you know about like this type of like manual material handling. Like he's trying to gauge me, right? And so me knowing that I have a little bit of a temper and I'm a little bit of an asshole and I feel fine about it, I decide to make this entire tour about pressing him because what you're not going to do is press me. So now we have an hour and a half together. And so I'm walking around here and now I'm pointing out all the way because this is his building. And he called me for help. And so now I'm telling him all the places that he had me fucked up at because you will not. Because that's what you
Mm-hmm.
get. That's what you get. And so after that, he's a little bit afraid of me because yeah, not only did you like, first of all, I was just trying to mind my own business, but now I had to come in and I had to like go hard on you. And that's just the way that it had to be because don't ever do that again in your life. Remember me. Like, the fuck is wrong with you? So that's the way I handle it. And I think that going back to my first situation, the first time that someone did that, that guy was like, oh, I wasn't expecting a baby. What it did teach me is that I needed to be fully prepared, like over prepared. Like if someone has a question for me, I need to be able to answer it with the the most backing that I've ever been able to speak, you know? So like
Mm-hmm.
after that, like the first time that that happened, I was annoyed, but I realized like the way for me to combat like people underestimating me is for me to have all the information that I need to be able to back me. I will also say I do use, and this is just honest truth. I do use people underestimating me to my advantage because I think that you have to know yourself and the way that you come off, and I think that's important. And so what I know about myself is that people tend to underestimate me, and I try and use that to work for me instead of against me. That's
Interesting.
that's where I'm
I
at.
guess I I would say I do some of it. So like I do over prepare
Mhm.
because I know I'm going to be questioned. And for me, it's like I need to prove myself to people until you trust me.
Yeah.
And what does that mean is over preparing and being ready to answer any question and all that stuff. So for me, I will 100% like if I know I'm having a meeting and it's on a certain topic, I'm going to over prepare because I already know that I need to be able to confidently answer all the questions that they're going to ask me. Like and then I know that I don't know, I feel that if I don't have all the answers, it makes me look incompetent. But I think it's from kind of grooming in that first job that we had where like I had a boss that made sure like she prepared us that way. So I knew things and I knew it. I never wanted to be wrong, right? Because she would like belittle you. And so I remember that's when I started like, and this is actually funny that you bring this up because I think that's why like I open my mouth if I know something 100%. I will not tell you something until I know I'm 100% right.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't do that. They'll go back and be like, my bad. What you need to do, right? Versus me, I have to be 100% right if I'm telling you something. So I was telling Jade actually that I was really annoyed this week because my boss, listen, this man, very intelligent, very, very smart individual. If he was not my boss, I would want to be his friend because he's actually
Oh,
pretty funny.
well, that's nice.
But it annoys me that he doesn't know like EHS and he's in this position and doesn't listen. And so it I don't know, he just pisses me off sometimes. So for me, if I'm in a meeting, I'm very quiet or I'm trying to understand and gauge the room, right? I'm trying to understand different personalities and who makes the decisions, who doesn't, who do I need to target, who's saying what, because I need to understand where they stand for me to go in when I need to. But I'm not going to just speak to hear, so you can hear my voice. And there's a guy on my team that does that. Every single meeting, they're guaranteed he's going to say two things. Like I count sometimes. I'm like, oh, he hit a third one. He's on a
There's
roll.
his, yeah, yeah.
And I'm not like that because I think for me, it's like I need to prove that I'm competent. So I stay, my mouth is quiet until I really disagree with something and I'm going to make you know it, or I'm fine with everything. I don't need to say anything. So anyway, we're having a meeting and my boss calls me after the meeting and was like, Aileen, you need to speak up more. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why is he telling me this?
Aileen.
That's what he said.
No, no,
Yes.
no. The same thing has happened to me before too, where it's like, but can I say though, I feel like the being quiet is
Hmm.
why people underestimate us because it's why is she so quiet? Maybe she doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we interpret it as I don't need to talk all the time. Like I don't need to be the loudest person in the room all the time because the loudest person in the room all the time sometimes isn't right, right? Like I can sit back and I can observe you guys and be confident in who I am as a person
Right.
and just be quiet. I don't need to make all that noise. But the way that it comes off sometimes is, or I guess it depends on the person, but sometimes it comes off as, why is she so quiet? Like, does she know what's going on? And so for your boss to call you afterwards and tell you that you need to speak up, I definitely want to hear the rest of the story, but I feel like I had the exact same experience. But finish your story and
And I
because I
think
want to
you're,
hear how it ends.
I think that is a valid point though, right? Is I could be perceived that way, but in my mind, I think of it when I do speak up, you better listen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because, oh, Aileen is saying something, she never says anything, it must be important, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, why am I going to waste my energy, my time, and everything to speak up? And it's going to be like, for what? Just so you guys could hear my voice? Like, no. And that's where I don't think like people understand. And I've come, like, you knew my first boss, like for my real big girl job.
Yeah, girl.
You knew her. And I think I was somewhat groomed in a way that I don't want to speak up because of that. Like, we only spoke up when we had to, and I had to learn to basically shut up and get my work done and be good at it and never be wrong. Right. And then so as I progressed, like she ended up leaving, had another boss. He just liked to talk, couldn't really get things done, but whatever. I knew my place. I knew how to handle my job. Next job that I left, once I left that company because of COVID, I got a new job. And there it was interesting because there I had my own office and I was very respected there. Like sometimes like they would be like, "Oh, the doctor's here." And I'm like, "I'm not a doctor. Like, what are you doing?" Right? And they're just like, "Oh, you're here, you can help us, you could do this." And like it was just like it was crazy, like the difference, right?
May I
And I'm like,
ask,
yeah,
do you think that it played a role in the fact that we started off as interns and so they always saw you as an intern, like your manager saw you as an intern and then saw you trying to like grow in your career versus going to this new place? They don't know you as an intern. They know you as the person that they hired to do
a
this job.
100%.
Okay.
And I think companies, well, I think it's very different nowadays because when, like back in the day, you wanted to be an intern, you wanted to grow with a company, you wanted to stay there a long time. Now, I
Uh
think back in the day, like think of our parents, right?
Okay, I was like,
Not
back in the
us.
day, because I don't have no loyalties to anybody. So what?
Right. I think
Okay,
our generation is not like that at all. We
no.
don't care. What are you
Mm-mm.
giving us, right? It's better if I stay with you a few years, jump, get a pay bump and a title bump, and move my way up,
Yep.
right? Versus, you know what I mean? Like, versus being an intern. And that's where, like, I even, like, some of the people on my team now, I'm like, I know you're underpaid for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Why? Because you started out as an intern. They already know your salary. And you want me to tell you how I know this? Because when I had left that first company, right? I was at a different one. I had just moved to like the Bay Area and I was like, okay, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna start fresh, start out here, whatever. Then they called me back and said, hey, can you come back? And I said, you know what? I just moved. Like, I can't come back now. And they're like, okay, well, we'll call you in a few months. I said, okay, cool. Call me in a few months. And I really left the door open because I wasn't sure. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't know if I
no,
want to
that
be up
makes sense.
here. Like, so he calls me back. And I said, listen, I've only been here like 6 months. Like, I can't just leave them, you know?
I mean, you
And
can.
I
You
could.
could, yeah, but you didn't want to.
I didn't,
That wasn't in your heart.
I
Got it.
wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like still like a new experience and everything like that. Then they called me again. And of course, listen, the fact that they always, like, God was testing me, I swear. He always called when there was like something going on and I wanted to leave. Like, he called the day that I found out, it was a Friday. We found out at that company that they were going to go to a divestiture, and my position was part of the sale. I had just been there for 6 months. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I signed up to work for this company and you're selling this portion of the company and I'm going with them. That means I'm losing my whole team because the rest of you guys are staying.
Mm.
And I was like, what the heck? And then the same day, I get a call from my old boss. Hey, are you interested in coming back? And I was like, what the hell? Like, and he just knew, right? And then, like, after that, I got another call from him and he's like, hey, Lean, we have this open position. Are you willing to come back? We're gonna give you like a we're gonna bump you up in another role. And I said, okay, well, what can you offer me pay wise? And so I had friends at the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, Aileen, we started like must have been like 5 years prior. And they're like, this is what's the starting rate for this position. Don't take anything less. So I was like, okay. So I said, what are you going to offer me? They're offering me $15,000 less than that.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, but they didn't know, like I knew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, like, first of all, I'm making a lot more money here and I'm willing to go, but you need to pay me more. Because at that point, I was like, okay, I was fed up. I was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. This divestiture thing is like ridiculous. It's a lot of work. And I was like, I just want to move back. But then that this is when I learned when intuition was like, when I was practicing intuition, I would say. But so anyway, I told myself, if they hit this number, I'm going to go. If they don't hit this number, I'm not going. And so he calls me back and he's like, this is the number, like, and I said, can you give me more? This is how much I'm making now. And he's like, well, let me talk to like the director and the VP and let's see what we can do. So then he ends up calling me back and says, no, they won't budge because this is how much you made when you were leaving, when you left the
Oh,
company.
that's whack.
And so they already knew like this is how much she was making when she left. But I was like, I have other experience now. Yeah, not very much, but I do. And so now like they wanted to only give me a bump from my old salary and I was like, no. And I remember like I still even considered it. And I was like, I can't believe I was considering that. Like, what the heck was I thinking? But I remember like taking 3 deep breaths and being like, should I take this job? And I just heard like a no. And I was like, okay, it's a no. And I
Yeah.
just let him know. I was like, sorry, I can't go for that amount, but thank you for like considering me, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Do you know what I love is that like they underestimated you, but you didn't underestimate yourself. Like you were like, I can do better. Like for sure. I'm not gonna accept this offer because I know that I'm already doing better and things will get better. Like, shout
Yeah,
out to
and
you.
but then I also knew like I had been there. I knew the people, it was comfortable. One, not everyone was going back, and two, I knew there was no opportunity for growth there. So I ended up just staying at this company and you know, it was fine, but here I had a voice. Like I was the one representing basically the whole department. I had to like manage a budget. I had to give direction to the whole site. Like I was that person. And the funny thing is, I don't think my boss knows that now. He doesn't realize that I used to do that. And I let him, I don't tell him these things. I'm like, go ahead, whatever. And so anyway, so the thing with him is he like in I guess like the point I'm trying to make, I can't even talk now,
You got it.
is I think every role and the different bosses and everything you have and the different experiences kind of shape you. And for me, and I don't know if I'm the only person in the world that does this, it might be kind of embarrassing, but I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Ooh,
So
I'm excited.
I classify people. I don't know,
Okay.
like, so for instance, at my old company, like my boss, he gave me like a cool uncle vibe. Okay. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, he's like cool uncle. Like I could joke around with him a little, but also be serious at times. Like that's the vibe he gave. And then like the the lady that was like in charge of like the warehouse, like she was more like a mama bear, right? So
Hmm.
if like I needed like a mom's support or like advice, like I would just go next door and talk to her and be like, "Hey girl." And then like it was funny because the VP gave like an older like wise vibe, so it was like you're like a grandpa vibe.
I've done that before. You're not the only one. I've done that. I did that at my first job because I was like trying to like figure everything out. And so I did the same thing. But I did it to remember like the organizational chart. Which is I think a little bit different. You're doing it based off of like the way these people make you feel. I did it
Mhm.
based off of like, okay, so I have a manager and then my manager has a manager. So that would be like my grandfather, and then like the
Oh,
manager is like my great grandpappy or some shit like that. Like I did it like that. uh,
okay.
but to be
I
fair, I didn't know a lot of people at that first. I had like one coworker that I talked to all the time, and that was it. I was pretty much working solo dolo.
Yeah, because I think for me, it just helps me like kind of categorize what interactions I'm going to have with these people or like kind of the vibe they give me. And I'm just like really, I think you already know this. It's like when I meet someone, I know if I like you or I don't like you, like within that first meeting,
Yeah.
just like with your vibe. And I think I don't know, like I'll just know like I like you or I don't.
can
And
can I ask you a question? Do
yeah,
you underestimate people? Like, do you ever like do you feel like you
I
ever flip it where like you're like the shoes on the other foot?
I don't think I have because, and I'll tell you why. I like, for instance, I think my, I call her my peer, right? But she's at a lower level than I am. But I think no matter what, whoever you are, you can contribute and contribute in a significant way. So, for example, like she reminds me so much of myself when I was an intern. Like the internship we had together, you know how I was like, I wasn't confident. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was trying to figure things out, right?
Yeah, we all were.
And
But yes.
yeah, but I wouldn't like I would wait for someone to confirm. So like I would say something and then look at someone like, are you going to confirm what I'm saying? Like, come on. And oh my God, she like I when I met her, I was like, okay, she's cool. I'm gonna like her. We're gonna be friends. But I didn't know her background. I didn't know anything. I just knew she's part of the team and you guys both report to the same boss. And I said, okay, cool. So then I got to know her story, and it's like she was an admin. She was given this opportunity um by like the department, right? And I think it's great because even though like And to me, it's like it doesn't even matter if you have a freaking degree, right? So for her, it's like she doesn't have a degree in safety, right?
Hmm.
But it's about the experience and what you know and how you can apply it, right? So you don't need a degree to do EHS. Like it's a nice to have, but did I do I take what I learned in my degree and apply it every day? No. I have to know how to look up OSHA regulations and apply them, right? Or EPA regulations. And for her, I think she underestimates herself. When I look at her, I'm like, you contribute the most valuable thing that no one on our team can contribute but you. She brings people together. One, she knows everyone at the company. She's been there for 20 years. She has the most connections and she knows how to navigate. She brings the most to our team. And I think other people undervalue her and don't see that. And I'm trying to teach my boss this. I'm trying to make him open his eyes and see her in a new light because the way when he used to treat her when I first started, unacceptable. Like my second day on the job, he basically told her to shut up on a call that I was on. I was like, what the hell's happening? This is how we became friends. She called me and apologized. I said, don't apologize. I said, I would have said something really nasty if you did that to me.
Which is actually so wild that he felt comfortable enough to do that. So, but I feel like you, because you've been underestimated, like you take on like a role of lifting people up where you can. Like you'll see
Yeah.
a person like
And
her
that's,
and be like, don't do that. Like don't minimize yourself. You see like what's special in them.
yeah, because I feel like we go through that, that I
Yeah.
don't want it to happen to other people, right? And even like this upcoming trip I'm going on for work, like they're like, well, what do you want to look at? And I was like, I want to look at this, this, and this because, but I tell them like, but she supports them. She's doing a fantastic job at what she's doing, right? And it was funny because we have someone else that's on our team. She does like she covers something else, but she's young. And I like one day I had a conversation with her boss and I said, listen, I said, we as a team, including you, because you need to defend her because she reports to you, it is unacceptable to give people busy work like this. How are you making her grow? What are you doing to help her grow in her career and make her be successful?
Mhm.
I said, it's unacceptable that you're giving her busy work that she doesn't want to do. You think she wants to run the safety campaign? No, she doesn't. She doesn't like safety. That's not her job role. So why is she doing it? You think she wants to write articles and send it to someone to post on our on internal company site? No, she doesn't want to do that. But why do you guys keep giving her tasks like that? Because she's fast and she's good at her job? Great. But you, as her boss, should give her meaningful projects that will help her grow in her career, right? It's like, so, and I said, we as a team need to stop looking at these three lower level people on our team and giving them crap like this to do because they shouldn't have to do that. And then, like, it was funny because she's like, hey, did you say something to him? And I was like, why? And she's like, he came to me and like asked about certain things about like some of the tasks. I was like, yeah. I told him like, and I told her, I was like, I didn't make it specifically about you. Like I included other people, but it's ridiculous that we're doing this. Like, I don't know why we do it. And same like my boss asks the lady I was telling you about, he asks her to book his travel. You're a grown ass adult. Log onto the
Oh,
system and you book your own travel. Who do you
I
think she is?
hate when people do things that they could have done themselves. Where I'm like, you know, it takes longer for you to explain to me what you need done versus you just doing it yourself. I hate that. Um, I really
It's
do.
just like he's stuck in the mindset that she's like still an admin. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, that's not her job function anymore. You need to like realize that. and you should not rely on her to do that. And I'm just like, this is so crazy. Like, it's wild. It really
It's
is.
upsetting. It is upsetting to like still see in 2023 too, where it's just like, what are we doing here? But I think that going back to your one of your points is that like because we've been through it, like we're able to kind of like lift people up.
I
Because we
really
don't want it
try.
to happen. Like it's happened to us, so it doesn't make any sense for us to sit by and let it happen to anyone else. Like I honestly, just me personally, I don't really care that much, to be honest with you. Like I just will meet someone and just assume that they're competent until proven incompetent. You know, like I've never been like, oh, like what's your background in? Are you sure that you can handle it? I don't really care that much. I think that if you're here, then you can do the job. So for people to like delve deeper into it is really wild to me. And I think that I have the same energy that your coworker has, where it's, I don't really care if you're the CEO or the janitor, you're going to get the same energy from me
Mm-hmm.
regardless. So I honestly don't even like when people do like the whole titles thing with me. I think that
I
it's,
hate that.
to me that's like name dropping, like it's embarrassing. Like I'm like, I don't, first of all, I don't know who you're talking about when people are like, oh, so and so from so and so. I'm like, I don't give a fuck, they don't sign my check, I don't care. Like I really don't. And people be name dropping in front of me all the time, and I'm like, you're embarrassing yourself.
They
Because
do that
not
to me
only,
too.
yeah, like I'm like, I'm not gonna go look them up because I don't care. They're not a celebrity to me. They work at a office job. BFFR, be fucking for real. I don't care. I do not care.
I'm
So
glad we're both on the same page. Listen, the same guy I was telling you about that asked me like if I have a degree in this or whatever. So before, I think they were trying to intimidate me.
mhm,
And like he's like, well, blah blah blah, like Joe Smo or whatever, John Smith, we can call him, I don't know.
yeah.
He's like, well, John Smith really wants this done. I'm like, who's that? He's like,
No,
you know, like John Smith. And I'm
I'm like,
like,
I
I
have no
don't
idea.
know.
I have
Like,
no
who is
idea
that?
who.
Like, it doesn't make a difference if Aileen wants it or John or Bob or whoever it
Exactly.
is.
I was gonna do it
It,
the same rate as whatever. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know who you're talking about. Unless you're talking about my mom and dad, I have no idea who you're talking about right now. Like, I don't even know why you would bring them up. Honestly, you could have been like, I need this just because, and I would have gave you the same energy that you would have gave me with like, oh, this is the CEO's name. I don't care. I don't care. And
Hmm.
he don't know me. So, or she doesn't know me. So boo. What are we doing here? So yeah, I feel like at least the cycle stops with us. I think that that is
Yes.
important. And I think it's also important for people to know that they're not the only ones if this does happen to them, and that they can use it to their advantage. I know I didn't get too deep into how I use it to my advantage, but maybe a
Listen,
different episode. Maybe a different episode. That's fine.
I'm
That's
gonna
fine.
take your advice though. And because the funny thing, I liked how your approach is, oh, you're gonna question me, then I'm make this difficult for
Oh.
you. Because I think I try and just like get away from the topic and leave.
Hmm.
But listen, this guy, like, he like he just is on like I don't love him, right? So for him, like he'll send me an email, I'll sit on it for like at least 2 days and then I'll respond. Like this is like if I like you, I'm gonna respond fast. If I don't, you're
You
gonna
get,
wait.
yeah, you get the
You're gonna
email when
wait.
you get the email. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think I think you should definitely do it, Aileen. You know, take like do what you need to do, like see what works well for you, because I feel like I've tried different approaches. And I remember, I will end it on this with like this one story. I used to work with this girl, and she was a doctor. Like she had a doctorate degree and everything. And the same thing happened to her. Like, and she was older than me. Like she listen, this was a mature woman, and she would tell me how it would happen to her when she was working. And she was like, I get mad, and sometimes they'll question me and be like, well, how do you know? Why do you think that this is the best? And she'll be like, well, my doctorate degree. So sometimes you really just have to like put your dick on the table and be like, because I'm the shit, bitch. Do what I said. and like end it like that and let that and let that be that. And if you don't want a doctor teaching you how to do it, then I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, so I
The
think everyone's
next
approach can
time,
be different. Do it how you want to do it.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Whatever
I
works
think
for
I
you.
just need to like I guess I experienced it at the first company, and like you said, because I was an intern, then got hired on and stayed there for a little bit, that at the second company it never happened, that when I got here, I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, it catches you off guard.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, and I was like, well, whatever, like, and that's just how I responded. But I don't know, it's crazy. Crazy, crazy that we're still being questioned about this today, and I
I
don't
think it's
know.
because we're so young, we're
I'm
just
42,
so
Jade.
youthful. We just look so youthful for 42-year-olds. I mean, so
Yeah.
yeah. But I think I'm proud of us, and I will let you any final words of wisdom from Aileen before we wrap up this episode. This was great.
I would just say stand up for yourself, because some people out there in the workplace are like out of control, and stand your ground. Like, Jade can tell you, I used to be deathly scared of my first boss, and now me and my boss fight all the time. And I'm totally comfortable about it, because if I disagree, I let him know.
Period. And that's
Like,
on psychological safety.
yeah,
Period.
there you go.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for listening. We hope that you have a good day or a good night, and we hope that you are well. Bye.
Bye.